Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name is Alex from Tech Fusion and today it's going to be an unboxing and installation guide of this all-in-one liquid cooling 360 radiator from Be Quiet, the PureLoop 360 series. This video is not sponsored in any way, shape or form by the guys over at Be Quiet. I wish that they had, but they haven't. It's just me looking to replace my stock cooling solution. I am running the AMD 3900X and I did do a slight overclock on it as well. But the stock cooler is fairly noisy and I would say it wasn't doing a fairly good job even running at stock speeds. Of course, this is just me. Some other people might be fine with running stock coolers as they are, but I was looking for a fairly good price for the performance product out there, and I happen to have found this PureLoop 360 radiator from Be Quiet, which is actually priced at around $120 at the moment of shooting the video, and is actually doing a fairly nice job keeping things cool and as well rather silent. This radiator here, one nice thing that I liked about it from the get-go was the refill port that they have on the product, and as well they include some liquid to refill some of that loss that you might encounter over the years. I wish that more manufacturers would think to do this, but nowadays the industry, it is how it is and they don't really care about the end consumer, and they would rather have you buy a new product than to reuse your old one. But the guys over at Be Quiet did a fairly nice job by including this refill port, and I am fairly pleased with that. As well, they are running a separate pump from the assembly itself, so as you can see the pump, it's actually separate from the block itself. It's actually quite silent. I don't have any complaints about that, and it runs the three 120mm silent wing fans too, which actually do a fairly good job at removing all the heat and still be rather quiet. So all in all, I'm really impressed by this product over here, and I will move now over and show you the unboxing side of things. I will show you what you receive in your box and as well how to install this, and do keep in mind I am installing it into the Cooler Master H500M, so your installation might vary depending on the case that you have. Alright guys, so let's see what you get in the box with the PureLoop 360 from Be Quiet. Let's open it up here. Nothing in here anymore. Take this away. Right, so you get the AIO, which this is by itself. I'm just gonna leave this on the side. Okay, then what we got next are the three fans that you get. These are the PureWings 2 by Be Quiet. So you get three of them, and you can daisy chain them together using something that I think it's in the accessory box. So I'm gonna leave this aside as well, as so. You get some literature, of course. You always get some literature with your products. I'm just gonna leave this aside as well. This is the accessory pouch. I'll just go through this in 1 second. And the thing left in here, it's of course a Be Quiet PureLoop coolant. Well, it's an antifreeze that goes all the way down to -5 degrees Celsius. This is the radiator by itself. It comes off with this, well, of course, sticker here. Don't forget to peel this off. They say that you can use this with pure metal if you want to use that as well, with liquid metal. I'm not sure I'm going to use it with that, but anyway, for the future, if you would want to use it, you can use it according to them. This is where your radiator fans would go. And of course this has a separate housing for the pump, which can be seen here. This is the pump, and this is the fill port that you can open up and then use the coolant that they gave you, that you can do the refills, which is fairly nice. So I'm gonna leave this at a side here for the moment, and let's go over through the accessory pouches and see what we get in the box. Bunch of zip ties, which is fine. And what we got here, another zip tie, bunch of screws, always nice to have. This is the way that you can actually daisy chain the fans together. So you have three fans here, and all these three fans will be run by daisy chain with these cables here that run out on the SATA power connector that is right here. So I'm gonna leave this guys at a side here for the moment. And in the pouch here you have another, well, Be Quiet branded pouch. It's just fairly nice. And in here you have all your mounting supports for AMD and for Intel. And well, I see they also provide you with a little syringe here. That is the thermal paste application in case you don't have one, which is fairly nice that they include this in the box. And this is just about it. This is all that you get in the box with the PureLoop 360. So just a quick tip for you guys, anytime you're working with fans, it's always a good idea to check the arrows that are presented on the fans themselves. As you can see, there is one arrow indicated in here, which basically shows you the rotation of the fan within the assembly, and there is another arrow over here which indicates the way the airflow is moving through the fan. So depending on the configuration that you're planning to use, always keep in mind which way the air is blowing so that you know precisely how to place them. Alright guys, so next I'm going to talk about how to install your Be Quiet PureLoop 360 using the AMD included hardware for the AM4 sockets found on your AMD chipsets. This being the MAG X570 motherboard, as you can see here, has already the standard mounting on it and a rather standard looking backplate that we'll have to remove in order to make room for the hardware that comes included with your Be Quiet equipment for the AMD chipset. Alright guys, so what you need to do next is grab yourself a screwdriver, remove the original brackets holding in the stock cooling solution for the AM4 chipsets. These are two plastic brackets that actually look metallic, held in place by 4 screws that you have to remove using a Phillips standard head. So let's go ahead and do that now and remove the 4 screws that we have here holding them in place. So what you'll be left with, it's just the CPU holder right here with no brackets on the side. And now once you remove or actually flip the AM board, you'll actually be left over with this backplate that was originally here. Now as you can see, there's nothing here holding in place this backplate. Do make sure once you install it correctly, like so, with the pins. As you can see, they're a little bit raised up that have to go through the holes and go on the other side. Before you mount anything to it though, you have to go to your AM4 kit, and as you can see you have 2 metal brackets here and as well 4 screws, and these 4 long, you could call them extenders, they're plastic risers actually if anything, and you have 4 washers here, and these 4 washers go on the back of your AM backplate like so on the 4 raised surfaces that you have right here. You can go ahead and put it on the back of your motherboard once again. Just make sure to line up the holes and just push it through the other side like so. You can sit it back down. I do consider it to be fairly okay to put it and mount it on your on your motherboard's box. Of course there are going to be some comments there with using anti-static bags and stuff like that, but as long as nothing is powered on, everything should be just good to go. Once you have done that, these 4 studs that have been raised. Alright guys, so once you've installed your backplate into its original position, you can go on ahead and use these plastic extenders and mount them on top of your motherboard. Do be actually quite careful, they are keyed in a certain way. So as you can see, there is a outside lip that, well, if my camera would focus, there we go, there is an outside lip here, as you can see, that is flush with the surface of the plastic housing. And on the other side is actually not flush because there is an indentation inside which allows the screw to actually go in further in. This is not actually for the screw, this is actually for the indentation on the motherboard's, there we go, let's focus here a little bit. This is actually for the hole that will protrude for the support of the backplate on the motherboard. So once you have this, go on ahead, take the plastic extenders, use the indentation side to go on the motherboard side, to go just over the backplate fittings. There we go, like so. Put them all into position. So once this is taken care of, now we can go on ahead and install the metal brackets that come included with the kit. And just take one of the screws and put it through the hole that is marked AM4. And then you just put it down on the motherboard. and just put the screw through the riser itself and just start screwing it in. Don't tighten it too much at the moment, just put them in there so they're just fairly snug. I will do the same for the second screw so I can be done with this support here. I'll take the second bracket, put it in its position with the screw in the correct location with the marked AM4 hole. Just tighten it just a little bit and take my fourth screw, put it into its position, and once this goes through I will start to snug it into position using the cross pattern solution because they're all tied in together using the back plate on the back of the motherboard. So just to be on the safe side, you don't have to tighten them too much, just as much as you feel comfortable, and just to feel snug should do the trick. Alright guys, so once this has been taken care of, you have successfully installed your bracket for your Be Quiet PureLoop 360. As you can see, there's nothing complicated here. It's all just 4 screws with 2 brackets and 4 plastic risers and 4 washers that go on the back of the motherboard itself. And it's all fairly straightforward as an installation process. Next, I am going to prepare the PC case so that we can install the radiator onto it. And once we have that in place, I'll come back to the motherboard, install the CPU and 2 RAM sticks that I have, and then put it all back together in the PC case and be ready to connect the Be Quiet pump assembly on top of the CPU itself. So for my application today, I'm going to mount these 3 fans on top of the case, the plan being to install the rad inside and with the help of the fans pull the hot air through the rad and then vent it out the top of the case. For your application, depending on the case you might have all the physical space you require to mount the radiator inside the case, as well with the fans to blow all the hot air through the radiator and then blow it out the top. For my installation though, that's not the case, so this is my plan of action right here. I'm going to take the PureLoop here and just vaguely hold it into position. As you can see, this is the PureLoop as an assembly. It comes, you can't detach the pump from the rad itself, so you just have to hold it in place while you install it, but that's not a big problem. I am going to hold the rad like so, and the kit itself actually comes included with these type of screws. They are longer screws, just threaded a little bit at the top here, and the plan is to actually put the screws through the fan and then through the holes that are provided by the case, take the rad and just put it up into position. So once you have everything lined up and the radiator seems to be into the correct position, I would just use the screw to first tighten it here, just a little bit, not too much, just to hold the rad in place until I will be able to mount all the other screws for all the fans to further stabilize and hold in place the assembly all together. So this is how it looks temporarily with only 1 screw installed into the assembly. These are not yet fixed into position, but as you can see, my radiator is held up quite nicely and flush over here at the top. You can't really see it very well. And I'll go ahead and install all the other screws for all the other fans to further consolidate its position and hold it in place. Alright, so once all the screws are into position, as you can see, they're snug and they're fit, and they're holding the rad up quite nicely into its intended position. I've already used some of the included cable zip ties to further, well, improve my cable management and make my job easier down the line. And I will now move into the installation of the motherboard back into its original position in the case, and then we'll install the block on top of the CPU. Alright guys, so what I want to show you is that the rad is actually held into position fairly nice by the 3 fans that we have installed on top. And we have the cable, well, I should say the sleeves right here coming from the right hand side, holding in the block assembly and as well the pump assembly, which is located on the right hand side. This pump assembly actually has some plate to it that will allow for easier installation, I guess, as one of the sides actually is flexible and it moves up and down freely because it's only held into position fixed in only one of the sides. Alright guys, so I will just quickly mention that you have to lift up your retention arm once again, since being probably the second time at least when you have mounted your CPU back into your motherboard. And take your CPU, put it into its correct position, taking care of the golden triangle to match the triangle printed on the motherboard itself, and then just slightly and carefully putting down the retention arm so that you fix your CPU back into its original position. Once this is taken care of, alright guys, so now that we have taken care of the CPU for this motherboard, I will go on ahead now and install the RAM sticks back into the position on the motherboard, checking the notch as an alignment tool, and I will go ahead and install them into their correct position. Alright, so that's one, and we go on ahead and install the second one, like so. So once this is taken care of, what you could do, you can install the GPU straight away and then install the whole assembly as a completed assembly back into the PC case, or you could just leave aside the GPU as I'm going to do, install the motherboard as is back into the PC case, install the water block on it, and then later on I will move and install the GPU, as this is much simpler to do, as it gives you more room for maneuvering inside the case. It all depends on you, and see you at the case. Right, so a little bit of a twist here. I ran out of thermal compound while installing the water block, while actually applying the thermal compound on the CPU. So just because I ran out, I decided to go on ahead and use the one that was included in the kit. I'm not sure if this is a really good idea to combine thermal compounds, as they do have varying degrees or different degrees of absorbing and transferring heat, so I would not recommend this, but if you're stuck in a pinch, then you can just go on ahead and do it, as it should be fairly fine for short periods of time. So now that we do have the thermal compound installed on our CPU, I'll take the water block and just put it on top of our CPU, making sure to line up the holes for the two screws. There is one on the top and one at the bottom that are lining up with our two brackets that we have just installed, and be ready to have in hand the trusty Phillips head screwdriver. So let's go on ahead now and install it on top of our CPU here. Alright, once you have them into position and they're snug in there, you can just go on ahead and tighten the screws. You don't have to over tighten the screws. You will feel them as you go in that they don't want to go in anymore, so you don't have to force them in any way. Just make sure that they're snug and that the whole assembly feels right, and it shouldn't move anywhere. So now that you have the block installed on our CPU, let's go on ahead and show you how exactly you can connect everything together so that you're running perfectly fine once the system is booted. So these are the three fan assemblies which have been installed, and we have the three wires coming off the three fans, and in the kit we have one of these daisy chain solutions, so it's just one cable that will be powering all the three fans together. So you can go on ahead, they're keyed in a certain position so you can't screw this up in any way, and connect all of them together. There's one, I'll take the second one, I'll connect it here, and the third one as well, and connect it here. And now you have all the three fans daisy chained together with only one fan header that has to go to your motherboard in order for them to get power. I will just route this cable through here, as I'll have to go to my CPU header here in order to install them correctly. So as you can see, this is the cable coming from the three fans that I have to put in here, which is marked CPU fan 1. So this is the header where this must go into. Again, it's keyed in a certain position, so you can't really mess this up in any way. Just make sure when you install it that you don't bend any of the pins. And once it is in place, you have all secured the fans so they have power running from the motherboard once you turn your system on. Alright, so next we have to take care of what is actually fairly important, the power lead that goes from the pump and the one that goes from the LED, where the Be Quiet is surrounded by an LED here on the block itself. And for this you have included in the kit another solution, which is to daisy chain them together using this cable here. Again, this cable is keyed so you can't really mess it up in any way, and it is powered by a SATA power connector that goes to your PSU. So let's do that now. Okay, once they're connected, like so, And with the SATA power here, you have to route the SATA power to your PSU, and then you're basically good to go. Okay, so once everything gets set up and all the cables are in their correct position, you can go on ahead now and reinstall your GPU into the motherboard, and then I would say you're good to go and turn the system on and see if everything works properly. So I'm going to reinstall the GPU now and see you on the initial boot and see how everything goes. Okay guys, so now we are officially ready to turn the system on and see how everything works. So it might take a minute or two, since removing hardware from your motherboard will actually trigger a check to see if everything is still attached and if it is the correct configuration. As you can see on screen here, now it prompts me to press F1 to run setup or press F2 to load the default value and continue. I will actually press F1. Alright, so we're running the CPU now at 30 degrees Celsius, and over here in the studio we have today 23 degrees Celsius. Which is temperature controlled, and we are running at stock speed of 3.8 gigahertz. So I would say mounting this 360 radiator from Be Quiet is actually a success. As you can see guys, so this is the installation for the radiator from Be Quiet, the 360 PureLoop, and it is installed correctly. It is fairly nice looking, I would say, if you ask me, with the silver metallic finish surrounded by this LED along the side of this logo from their side. Thank you guys a ton for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and consider subscribing to our channel, and where we'll keep you posted with more videos coming down the line, including videos with PC parts and PC builds down in mind.